Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Same Page, Lord Up with Friends. Tonight I have one of my other best friends in the space. I don't know if there's any more introduction I need than to say it's the attack on Morgan joining me tonight. Morgan, why don't you go ahead and
Here
introduce you?
immediately.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Morgan, otherwise known as Attack on Morgan, as that is all of my social media. I am an actor, a cosplayer, a TTRPG player and streamer, and a little bit of a content creator. You might know me from the Dice and Autism New Rollis stream. You might know me. I used to do Girl Squad over on the World Tree Quest channel. I have done a couple one shots on the Pluto Cleric channel. I am also a part of the Roguelike Rumbles, as well as Dreadful over on the Pick Your Poison Productions channel and in person. Um, and I've also, you might know me from the Spells and Whistles 3 episode Perils and Princesses mini campaign that we did over there. You might also maybe know me from the various theater shows that I have done over the years, like Seussical and Wild Party and Urinetown and all that good fun stuff. But you also might know me from the crazy amounts of concerts that I go to.
You like
Or you might, I
you
forgot,
like
you might know me as a
concerts?
cosplayer.
You're a
I don't,
music person?
I,
What?
crazy. I do so many things. It's,
Yeah,
it's
this is
like
why I
hard
just said you're
to
the
keep
attack on
track.
Morgan. It's simple, like it tells everyone what it is. It's very
I was
obvious.
It's so funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and he was like, "Oh, like how are your like creative outlets going? Like how's your acting
It's
going?"
a
And I
broad
was like,
question to
"Oh,
ask you.
I was like, yeah, I was like, oh, like D&D and TTRPG stuff is da 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 this, and then I was like, acting is this right now, and I was like, other things, cosplay, da da da, and he was just like, wow, what a wide array of things, and I was like, I'm very much a jack of all trades when it comes to creative things. Like I sort of dip my toes into all of them if I can, because I just like being creative.
And busy.
So
I
so busy.
love that for you though. But yeah,
Thanks.
why don't you tell everyone how you got into just like I guess tabletops in general, and then just kind of how that shifted into
Sure.
doing like all the kind of content that you are doing now.
Yeah. So I originally got into like D&D and TTRPGs because my one of my best friends, Lena, um, she was telling me about this thing called Critical Role, and I had never heard of it. And she was like, "Yeah, it's all these voice actors, and you watch them play a D&D campaign." And I was like, "Okay." And she and I are big like anime people. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was like, yeah, it's got like Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson and like all these people that I knew of. And we were in this like game store and the worker and the manager of the game store like overheard Critical Role and like
Mm-hmm.
immediately started talking to her about it. And I was like, whoa, this sounds cool. So I went home and I started watching it. I watched 100 episodes of Campaign 2 in like a month.
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
yeah, I binged it hard. And every couple days, I would go down to this game store because I lived down the street from it. And I would talk to them about Critical Role and like where I was. And that was sort of like a little bit how I started to find my people out in Los Angeles. And then a little bit after that, I found out that there was a D&D group that played at that game store like every Saturday. And I came down like a little before their game time and I talked to the DM. I was like, "Hey, I haven't played and I really want to." And so I was wondering if it would be okay for me to start playing with the group. And he like asked the group and they all agreed and I started playing. And this was in like January, February of
Mm-hmm.
2020. Um, so then, this crazy event that I don't think anybody remembers happened in 2020. And yeah,
I can't think of
the
anything. I
name
can't think of anything
escaping
that could
me
happen
right
around
now.
time of
Crazy.
life.
Everything moved online. And so I discovered D&D TikTok, and I started posting, and I started meeting people from there. And
Hmm.
that's sort of like where it kind of spawned everything. I very much credit, I would not have made it through the pandemic if not for D&D and TTRPGs. Like I was playing in four weekly campaigns
Hmm.
at one point because I had nothing else to do. And like
Me too,
that's how
bestie. I started
yeah,
playing in this November of 2019.
yeah,
So, yes.
like that's how I got through it. And like I've made these wonderful friends, and I'm very lucky that I get to do these cool streamed games, and I get paid to play D&D live from time to time now, which is really awesome. And I did a panel at Gen Con last year. And it's just led to like all of these things. And I have just now set a date for the very first session of a campaign that I am GMing. I am GMing a mass campaign. It was a one shot that everybody loved so much. They were like, can it be a campaign? So it's now gonna be like a mini campaign with
I hope
my
you're prepared. You don't happen when you start GMing. It's gonna happen a
yeah.
lot more.
Well, honestly, like I'm gonna GM something for the New Rawless crew at some point, hopefully like a charity stream of some sort.
I mean, I would
And
totally
then
be down to join and have you GM
and
for me.
yeah, and I know that like because here's the thing is I haven't GM'd D&D yet.
Hmm.
I've GM'd masks so far. Um, and the one I want to do for New Rawless is I want to do Perils and Princesses. Um, and I know I want to DM D&D at some point, and
Hmm.
I always knew that my first ever D&D campaign would be Witchlight Carnival. Um,
Ooh, good choice.
because it's like it's a really good module, and I know it's really good for first time DMs as well. And
Hmm.
then I know if I ever do a homebrew like D&D campaign, it's gonna be urban fantasy because that is my bread and butter. And when I mean urban fantasy, I mean like your sending stone, that's your cell phone. I mean
Hmm.
like you go into a coffee shop and they're like, "Hey, you want to get a
Like
coffee?"
fantasy high, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, like a little fantasy high but more modern because I know
Hmm.
fantasy high is a bit more like
It has a
50s
lot
inspired.
of yeah. It has. It's more like John Hughes esque. It's more like
Yeah.
80s type high school
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
Yeah,
it's a little bit I want to go like full modern
I love
urban
that.
fantasy. So,
No, that's so dope. And I'm so intrigued. And we're going to talk more after this now because I need to hear about that.
and I just love it. I think it has made me a better actor.
Hmm.
I've been able to add accents to my resume that I have learned because of D&D. I think it's made me a lot more comfortable with improv. I think
Hmm.
it's helped with my character work that I do for acting because like character work is my very much like bread and butter.
Yeah.
Like I delve so deep into character work when I act. It's one of my favorite things about
Hmm.
acting, and that's a big chunk of playing D&D and TTRPGs. And so it's like the actor slash theater kid pipeline to D&D and TTRPGs is just like
Yeah.
so straight, which is so funny because none of us are straight.
Hmm.
Um, truly, but like it's such like a strong pipeline. And so many of my actor friends like out here in LA like also love D&D TTRPGs, and I've made some like incredible friends,
Hmm.
including you, from playing these things.
I'm
And
friends with the Attack on Morgan. Holy
stop.
shit. Guys,
For those of
I've
you
made it,
listening,
guys. I've made it.
oh my God. For those of you listening that don't understand, the running joke with my friends is anytime I pop in somewhere on like a Discord call or anytime they see me, they go, "Oh my God, is that the Attack
I
on
don't know what you're
Morgan.
talking about. It's not a joke. It's like real
Okay.
awe and wonder, delight.
Oh my God, is that the Pluto
The
cleric?
what? No, it doesn't work that way. Stop. I don't like
That
it.
does work.
You can't flip shit on me. It's not fair.
Hmm.
No, but yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense too. Just like the way I GM'd when I first got into D&D to the way that
Hmm.
I GM now has evolved
Hmm.
so much. Like I
Oh yeah.
used to plan out so much detail, had full stack lots, would plan out like every little deviation that could be accounted for that I could think of. I don't do that no more. Yep, you're new.
That's
I know where you're
that's
at.
what I
I know where
do.
you're at.
I know. Yeah, I'm having fun currently campaign building for the mini
Hmm.
campaign. I will say though, hey, powered by the apocalypse. If you're listening, love you. Love the things that you do. You're great. Please give masks more combat rules. Please.
There's
That
ways
is
to
my,
tweak it. When I run it, we didn't get to really
yeah.
dive into combat because the one I ran for you guys ended
No.
before we got to your first fight.
Yeah,
I kind of
it
run it
did.
slightly different. Like I'm more
Yeah.
free form with how I do the combat because there is only like one or two things to do in combat with
Yeah.
mass.
No, it's tough. And like Jay, aka Sequo, who just ran the Hero U mini
Hmm.
campaign over on Dyson Autism channel that I was a part of. I've been like, they've been helping me a lot with planning my mini campaign, and I've been asking them a lot of questions. And I'm like, hey, so like combat for mask. And they were like, Bestie, it's so hard. Bestie, it's like you just gotta, it's a little tricky
It's
because there's
very improv heavy.
it's
You
so
really just
broad.
have to
There's
go with stuff. Yeah.
and like here's the thing that I love about masks is I do love how there aren't as many rules to the system as there
Hmm.
is with D&D, and it's a lot more RP focused and it's very character driven. And I do like the fact that for combat you just get to fully describe what your character does, and then me as the GM gets to go, okay, great, give me an unleash your powers roll, give me a directly engage a threat roll. I do like that. I just wish there were a couple more mechanics for the GM to run combat. I
Hmm.
think mechanics for combat mechanics for the players is fine where it's at. I wish there were more mechanics for the GM having to play these
Yeah.
like villains and do this combat with these villains and NPCs.
Yeah, because villains are very. It's just like you pick a threat level, and then they get that many specific moves that you just kind of like write a sentence about what they can do. Like you can have like a
Yeah.
guy who shoots lasers, be like, okay, I shoot lasers to destroy or some shit like that, and then that's a
Yeah.
very just vague thing you can do as a reaction.
Yeah. So
So,
it's sort of like I'm trying to find that balance.
hmm,
The one shot was a little tricky. I had 7 players for the one
yeah,
shot. And one of the players, Sarah, aka Dirtsk, who's
hmm.
amazing. I adore her. She had her character, a 14-year-old, and like her powers, she can like phase through things kind of. She was like, can I phase my hands through and pull out their hearts? And I was like, what? And she was
Mm.
like, yeah, and like described it to me. And I was like, sure, make me and unleash your powers roll. She rolled a 14. And I was like, oh, yeah, you do it. And then I was
God
like,
damn.
how do I reconcile this currently? So I had my NPC that you know very well, Light Bright,
Nightlight?
um,
Oh, light bright. That's right.
who is sort of knocked out of this fight, kind of peek up to be like, hey, if you don't put their hearts back right now, I am going to have to arrest you for murder. And she did, thankfully, but it was like, oh my God, what do I do in this situation? And she rolled a 14. I can't say no. Like it has to happen, I guess.
Yeah, I
It
feel
was
like for mass
wild.
combat, I'll like write out like what they can do, like the threats and stuff. But like I'm very freeform with. I barely even look at any of that when I'm actually running. They kind of like I just want like a baseline. Okay, so they have these powers, cool. I'm just gonna just say what they do when this stuff happens and make you roll
Yeah.
stuff. I'm not gonna really look at the character. I know how strong they are. I know how long I want this fight to last. And just go with it there.
Yeah, and I know that the more I do it, the more I'll get comfortable doing with it, and I know
Hmm.
that I have you and Jay as, like, really great resources for it because you both have run masks
Hmm.
before, so
Yeah,
that helps
I
as
think the
well.
biggest thing for combat when you have like tougher enemies, like they aren't just minions that don't matter.
Yeah.
I don't give them HP. in any system. Unless it's
Mm.
a deadly campaign where there is a chance they can die, so that it needs to be more fair. When I think the fight's at a good conclusion for the story, I'll end the fight or they'll run away. I mean, it's better that way because
Yeah.
everyone's here just like to tell have fun and tell a story. No one cares like about the combat to that specific degree. They're like, well, I want to know how much damage I need to do to kill this person, and yeah, it's not really about that.
Well,
So
yeah, and with masks, there is no HP for
it's
anybody, really. It's
conditions.
based on, like, conditions, but, I mean,
Hmm.
if you're fighting, the, like, adult supervillain, like, of the campaign, like, it doesn't make sense, and if your players are rolling really well and, like, always hitting, like, it doesn't make sense because then they're out of the fight so quick, so it's like,
Yeah,
"No, I gotta keep this
you
going," like,
really
"Come on,
have
you're
to
f."
draw out those villain turns because they go
Yeah.
after every single character. So it's always just back and forth. So like when their villain has their turns, monologue, like do something to the
Mhm.
environment, put people in like you don't just need to focus on
Yeah.
the group specifically, just fight it. Like do stuff that you would see in a villain movie. Like Loki didn't just stand there and straight up fight those guys. He fucking directed aliens and did some
Yeah.
bullshit. Like so
Yeah.
much that you can do to prolong fights. It's just that mechanics aren't really there to like tell you what to do.
Yeah, I wish I could we'll talk about this after this. I wish I could talk to you about my campaign, but in case any of the players are listening, I cannot, but I'll talk to you about it afterwards because 'cause I've got some really cool, stuff planned that I'm excited about.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm always down to talk GM stuff. Like I did a thing today. I was playing a Taskmaster game with Tori and some people, and we did like list of fast. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just count how many tabletops I run and use that as my fact. I've run over 25 systems in the last like 2 years.
That's incredible. Please be
Yeah,
so proud of yourself for that because
and
it's
I
not
I
easy
I
to learn
still
a new
have so
system.
many I want to run too. It's
Yeah.
such a problem.
I'm getting to that point where, like, I'm starting to, like, be like, "Oh, I wanna play this system. Oh, I wanna play
There's
this
just so
system," and
many that are out there that are good.
yeah, and I'm actually starting to do it, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say I did just come back to D&D after, like, a brief little hiatus, and I did miss D&D, and I was like, "Oh, it's nice to be
I still get
back."
to play D&D. I just don't really run it anymore. I have two home games that I
Yeah.
play in. That one the Just runs, that one the Halloween runs that I get to play in. So that fulfills my D&D needs because like I don't play a
Yeah.
lot of D&D besides the occasional like one shot now because I just don't like to run it myself. I have
See,
so
that's
much
fair.
other games I want to like. I already have like the next 3 or 4 systems for my campaign kind of fleshed out of what I want to run. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I don't know. And D&D has all those changes coming out soon with the new playbook, so I need to even like see how that's going to be with
Mhm.
like going forward. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so you said that you had a lot of systems to run. Do you have any specific ones you want to run after Mass? You said now you run a Perils and Princesses, and I know you
Yeah.
are building out your Mass campaign. Is there any other systems you think you want to take a shot at down the line besides like
Yeah.
D&D?
I was gonna say I do wanna do D&D at some point. I hmm, um I think it would be fun to run Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and I'd love to run it for people that have never played before.
Hmm.
I think that that would be really fun. I don't know if I wanna run it or be in it, but I really wanna do Candela Obscura, at some point. I'd
Funny
love
you
to
mentioned Candela. We'll talk after this.
I'd love to play more Kids on Bikes, because I've only played it once, and I wanna play, Hunter: The Reckoning, like, really bad.
Hmm.
Um, I just there's just so many systems out there. I just got the Marvel Multiverse role-playing book, and I'm very interested
Did
in
you?
that. I
Hmm.
did.
I might
Me
I might have bought something at Gen Con.
me liking superheroes? Crazy.
What? No way. What a nerd.
Mm.
I would never.
Yeah, so, we'll see. We'll see what happens later down the line.
I mean, there's just so many systems, and then there's so many systems that also run like the same type of concept. Like, there's a million hero systems out there. There's
Yeah.
so many medieval ones. There's so many fantasy ones. There's so many sci-fi ones. So it's just like
Yeah.
always like for me, it's always like getting a concept and then like deciding what I want to run to. Like, cause some systems like
Mhm.
sometimes I'll look at a system like I really want to run the system, and then I start to build out the game, and I'm like, this system doesn't really work for what I need it to be for
Yeah.
this, which is a
Yeah.
very common problem you'll find once you start role building more and more. Because some of these systems are nice and they look cool, but then you get
Yeah.
an idea and it's just like this is too crunchy, this doesn't have enough, like,
Sure.
or anywhere in between all that too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to run all those systems, but it's also like I need to think ahead of like what I want to run before I jump on systems.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's also why I've had systems I've wanted to run, and then I never run in a system I've already run before. It's like, well, I don't know this one. This one will work better for this game. I'll just come back to the system later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like it's very like, there's so many like different types of games to be done, and
hmm
it doesn't always translate to like D&D. And so that's when you have to go start exploring other systems and be like, okay, oh, if I want to run, like if I wanted to run like a Stardew Valley inspired game, I don't know exactly if D&D would be the system for that. So like what would work better in place of that that has like better uh combat mechanics and better game mechanics that would
hmm
allow more for the story that I am trying to tell. Which is why I think it's so cool that there's like so many different systems out there, because it just allows for like so much creativity in the tabletop role playing game space. And
hmm
I love getting to see like how people take certain systems and like twist them a certain way to like make them tailored to whatever story or like game that they're playing. Like that's always really really fun to see.
Yeah, and there's like so many IPs now that are coming out with games. Like there's more and more like actual
Mhm.
like IPs like Marvel, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's an Alien game, there's a
There's
Fallout
a Star
game,
Wars
there's a
one.
Star Wars one. Yep, there's
Mhm.
just so many more IPs coming out. So like if you're like, oh, I want to run this fiction that I love, more than likely there might be a game for it already at this point. 'Cause there's just so many and more keep getting made. So
Yeah,
like it makes it
probably.
really easy to like just be like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to jump in this world and run it myself. Oh, cool. There's a system that's kind of built for that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to like really craft. This is why I don't have enough time in my life to
None of
do.
us do.
I,
None
I
of us
I wrote
do.
out my calendar for stuff and like I'm gonna be busy this year, the rest of this year between everything. So which I
I
mean I
know, I
still
feel
have to
that.
have you on for a campaign at some point. So I've only had you on for one shot so far. And the one campaign we did start didn't end up working out because of time and scheduling. So,
Yeah. Hey, I'd be down. I'd be down. I just, I have a boundary with campaigns, which is I like to know
mhm.
everybody, if not almost everybody, pretty well before I start playing, just as like
Yeah,
safety for me.
that's totally
So,
fair. Which I think my server's getting more and more pruned down to people that we're all familiar
yeah.
with. Because I also don't like run. I'm getting more to the point where I don't like running for new people either as much. Like I'll put casting calls out occasionally, and I'll pull like one or two people in, but most of the part it's been like 80 to 70% more like friends that I've already run for or know in the space because space is fun, but not always.
Yeah, hey, that's totally fair.
Yeah,
That's totally fair.
but yeah. So I guess I never asked this before
Mhm.
because like I just kind of joined your guys' group for Gen Con the year before. But
Yeah.
how did New Rollist get started? Like how did that camp how did you get into that campaign? How did that all kick
Oh
off?
yeah. So that's actually a little bit of a funny story. So I've known Nate, aka Dyson Autism, for like a hot minute,
Mm-hmm.
sort of being in the space and interacting through there. Excuse me one second. And Discord calls and stuff like that. And he put out a casting call in a Discord server that I'm in, about this like sort of 1920s inspired campaign. And I don't normally do this. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like put my name out for that. Like, let's see. I'm curious. And I did that, and I got added to like a group chat about it almost like pretty immediately, cuz Nate was like very excited for me to be interested in this. And Tom, that one Warlock, and Jay Sequo were in it. And I was mutuals with both of them, but I didn't know either of them super well. And then there was another person that was supposed to be in it that couldn't because of timing. And then the timing that was originally set I couldn't do because of my work schedule, so I asked if we could bump it, um, like, back an or forward an hour, like, have it be an hour
Hmm.
later, and then that made another person, like, not be able to do it, and, like, I felt really bad, and they were like, "No, it's okay, like, because of time zone stuff, I probably wouldn't really have been able to do it anyway at the original time." Um, and then I was talking to B, aka Ben does D&D, who's, one of my best friends, and they were helping
Never heard
me.
of them.
I never heard of them. They're great. Um, and they were helping me build my character for this. And they
Hmm.
were like, wow, this campaign sounds like really cool. Like, I wish I could do it. And then like somebody, that person that could like dipped, and I was like, hey bud, why don't you like ask if you can join now? And be asked and got added. And I did push my boundary a little bit because I didn't know Sequo or that one Warlock like super well, but I was mutuals with them and I heard nothing but good things about them. And like B is one of my best friends and I trust B implicitly. And
Hmm.
then Nate, as the DM, I trust with my life. And so I was like, there's enough trust there that I have with these two other people that I feel decently comfortable enough to be in this game. And I truly can't imagine my life without Jay or Tom, and now, of course, Abigail.
Hmm.
Um,
You
and
guys totally
it's
just kidnapped Abigail.
we really did. We really, really did. We were like, "Oh, you're guesting? Just kidding. You're here
Yeah,
forever now."
it's literally just that Allie Beardsley and Brennan Lee Mulligan sound.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you're kidnapping me?
Oh,
No, no, no. But so
no,
I'm
no,
allowed to
no, no,
leave. No, you
no,
no, no, no.
no, 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 no. That's 100% what it was. And I'm so lucky to play with them. Sorry, that's one of the doggos. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good.
Okay. And like I'm so lucky to play with them and I want to play with them for like ever. And we've talked about like when we get to a point where we're not streaming, like, and who knows if that'll happen or when that will happen or whatever, but we've said like we will still play in like home games or like whatever together. Like
Hmm.
a bunch of us play in games offline together like a lot anyway.
What?
Um
No, what? Really?
Crazy.
Crazy.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
it's
dope
it's
though.
great. And like I have not always played with the best groups or the best people or the best DMs, and the new Rawlist crew like truly has made me feel so much less anxious about
Hmm.
playing D&D and TTRPGs, and it's such like a lovely like safe space that I like get to play in. And it's gotten to a point where like I feel so comfortable like RPing out like conflict and fighting and like inter-party conflict with
Hmm.
them because I know, and like I will have to ask for reassurance after the
Yeah,
fact sometimes,
like how
but like
you and Jay never play characters that like each other. Like
Jay and
you
I
always are
never play characters
antagonistic.
that Jay and I literally never play characters that like each other. And it's so funny because truly it's never on purpose. That's just how it ends up happening. That's literally happening with our prequel campaign right now, Founding Steps.
Not even
And
surprised.
but it's also like Jay and I are so good at having inter-party conflict with each other because we both are like sluts for inter-party conflict.
Hmm.
And we're like, no one
I
else is
mean,
gonna do
yeah,
it.
it
Guess it's
happened.
up
It
to us.
happened in the mass one shot I ran when I met you
Yep.
guys. It's happening in our mass game right now, kind of. It's just great. It just keeps
Yeah.
happening over and over
It's
again.
And it like we're so comfortable with it because we know each other so well and
Hmm.
like we bounce off each other really well and we trust each other so much. And like, there are times where like stuff gets like there's a lot of tension, it gets really heated. And after the session when we're doing our stars and wishes, I have to be like, hey guys, like I need this for my anxiety brain. Like, was this okay? Are we
Hmm.
all good? And they're always like, no, 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 like we love you. We're not mad at you. You did great. You did what your character would do, and it absolutely made sense. And like
No, totally fair.
it's truly like one of those groups on one of those tables that you're like, this is something so special
Hmm.
that like you don't always get at every table or group or whatever. And I'm so lucky to like have that. And I just love them so much.
It's kind of gay. Uh, but
Pretty gay.
yeah, I
Super
get
gay.
that though too because like I have a God Killer campaign planned at some point. We're taking time, just the other friend that's in it, and just move it. But like, we were
Mhm.
just gonna run it offline, and we had our session zero, and then we started plot planning, and we packed like 5 hours of trauma into that plot planning session. That we were like, this story's gonna be really good, so like we should stream this. But also, we're
Mhm.
gonna have to like hang out for an hour or two after each stream just to
Oh,
like
yeah.
watch anime
Decompress.
and do nothing because it's
Yeah.
going to be very intense because we're both
Yeah.
going to be god killers and both going to be gods. We're just going to rotate between.
Ooh,
Like
I want to play God Killer
I'll
so
tell you
bad.
more about it after this because there's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
honest,
yeah.
we when I literally mean 5 hours. Like that's not even hyperbole. We spent 5 hours.
No, I believe it.
It's going to be so much fun. But yeah,
I believe it. I do.
but I think it's time to move into the second segment of our show. And because I already know what your topic is, I guess we'll just say we're going down. What
Down in an
down?
earlier round.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar, we're going down swinging.
You know,
Yes,
obviously.
hello. I have come here today to info dump and lore dump about one of my favorite hyperfixations. If you can't tell by the shirt, um, and for those of you just listening, it's Fallout Boy. Um, for those of you that don't know, as you will find out, I am not only a big, big, big Fall Out Boy fan, I'm a big like pop punk alternative music fan in
Mhm.
general. Like it's very much like my genre of choice.
Morgan got
It's
me
sort
back
of
onto
like
my emo kick.
I did. I literally made Paige a playlist that's titled Time to Turn You Into an Emo Kid.
Which was funny because like it was like a quarter of it I had, a
Mhm.
quarter to like the other third of it. Like I know these songs, I just never went through my Spotify and saved them. So it was funny to flash back through all this.
Yeah. So yes, I have come because truly this is so funny. I like sent a picture of the Mamma Mia cast to my friend Madeline, and the caption was like, if Inside Out 2 was filmed inside my head. And she texted me back and went, that's my head. Your head is just the members of Fallout Boy. And I was like, you're so right. They
Honestly.
live rent free up in here
Okay,
constantly.
first
And you know
question. Who's Fall Out Boy?
what? I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. Fallout Boy is one of the top pop punk rock bands of all time.
Mhm,
I don't normally have to explain who they are to people because most everybody knows who they are. And if
mhm,
you don't, I guarantee you do such with such songs like Sugar We're Going Down, My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark, Thanks for the Memories. Like they are one of the biggest bands I
mhm.
think out there, and they are originally from Willamette, Illinois, which is like a suburb kind of outside of Chicago. And they consist of four members. We've got Pete Wentz, the bassist, and also like the main, one of like sort of like the main lyricist for the band. He's also kind of considered like the front man for the band. And you know, I'll explain why later. We've got Patrick Stump, who's lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist. We've got Andy Hurley, drummer for the band, and then we've got Joe Troman, who is lead guitarist. He also provides backing vocals as well, and he also does some of the writing for the band as well. Patrick does a lot of like composing for the band, and if I can just sort of jump into like a little history of them, if you would like.
This is your thing now. I'm just a
So
spectator.
yeah. So it's the summer of 2001. Joe meets Patrick's and he's like, "Yo, I know about music." And Patrick is like, "Yo, I know more about music." And Joe goes, "That's crazy. Do you want to start a band?" For those of you that don't know, that is just the beginning of the drunk history of Fall Out Boy that I was quoting. But it is true. So, yeah, it's like it's 2001. Pete Wentz and Joe Troman are a part of this band called Arma Angulus. Excuse me. I believe is what it's called. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And it's this kind of hardcore band in Chicago. And Chicago is a big proponent of sort of like the hardcore punk scene.
Hmm.
And Pete and Joe kind of develop this friendship and they want to start doing this sort of like project that they sort of call on the side that's this like more like pop punk kind of style band. And they're at a Borders bookstore and they're talking about neurosis and Patrick interrupts the conversation to like join it and talk about neurosis cuz like Patrick had like all of this band knowledge
Hmm.
and Pete and Joe are like who is this kid? And they basically like invite him to audition for this band that they're trying to like form. And this is so funny to me. Patrick originally wanted to be the drummer of the band. Like he showed up for the audition and like wanted to be the drummer. And like they finally got him to like because he like showed them some of his like song lyrics and then they
Hmm.
finally got him to sort of play one of his songs like on the guitar and he like sang it and they were like, "Oh my god, you have to be the lead singer." Because Patrick Stump truly is one of the best vocalists
Hmm.
of our generation. Like it is insane his range and his like tone and the way that he sings. It's just off the charts talent. And it's crazy to me that he did not want to be the lead singer. And he was like very against being the
Hmm.
lead singer. Like he was like, no, 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 I don't want to do it. And they were like, you have to. You have a soul voice. You have to. And they'd also already sort of had a drummer for the band. Andy Hurley didn't join the band until later. And so they make this like I think it's what's called like an LP. It's not like an EP, it's called like an LP.
Hmm.
I don't know the abbreviation for that. And it's called Evening Out with Your Girlfriend. And some people are like, yeah, that was Fall Out Boy's first album. And like technically they're not wrong, but Fall Out Boy are the ones to be like, no, it was the next one. That one's garbage. And like here's the thing. I love pretty much anything that Fall Out Boy does. Are there songs that like aren't particularly my favorite? Are there
Hmm.
albums that I like more than others? Like, yeah, of course. But like most of the time when I listen to Fall Out Boy stuff, like I enjoy it. There's nothing really that I like won't listen to or skip. I tried to listen to Evening Out with Your Girlfriend. It's so bad. It's just all around not great. Truly. And this is speaking as someone that's like such a huge fan of this band. It's not great. Um, and so then they recorded their debut album, Take This to Your Grave. And that I believe came out in 2003. And before this, when they first kind of formed and they were sort of playing shows around, they didn't really have a name yet. And so they tried out a couple different ones. I think one at one point was like Forget Me Not was one of the names. And they were just sort of like trying out different names. And one of the names that they kind of threw out there because Joe and Patrick are like diehard Simpsons fans was
Hmm.
Fallout Boy, which is a reference to a Simpsons character. And I think they went to play another show and their band name was like something like really ridiculous and long. And somebody in the crowd went, no, fuck that. You're Fallout Boy. And so a lot of times when interviewers ask them, like, how'd you get your band name? They're like, technically, somebody in the crowd named us.
Hmm.
Um, and it stuck and that's sort of how the name came to be and so they come out with Take This to Your Grave and it's their debut album and That was the first album that also featured Andy Hurley. He was not the drummer on Evening Out with Your Girlfriend. I believe Pete had asked him to join the band and he wasn't super interested and was also like busy and couldn't, and then sort of came back around to it because I think he filled in for their drummer for like some of the touring before Take This to Your Grave came out. And so like Take This to Your Grave comes out and that sort of starts to get them, and they made that album with Fueled by Ramen, which is a record label. It's
Hmm.
a record label that has like 21 Pilots assigned to them, Paramore assigned to them, Waterparks was signed to them. They're currently not anymore. Um, um, so it's very much a record label kind of
Hmm.
rooted in sort of indie. I say indie. It used to be an indie
Like pop
label.
punk
I don't really
ish
think it's considered
stuff.
that anymore. Yeah, it's kind of like alternative is very
Hmm.
much sort of. And it comes out and people like really start to take notice and they start to like tour for it more, and that sort of starts to like
Yeah,
get
because
them.
their first album had Saturday and Where's Your Boy on it, right?
Yeah, Grand Theft
Okay.
Autumn slash Where's Your Boy Tonight, our national anthem. Thank you very much. Uh, that's my national anthem. Yeah, so it had like those big songs. It's actually like it's listed in Rolling Stones. It's their number 5 of their like best pop punk albums of all time.
Hmm.
And Rock Sound, I believe, ranked it number 3, right behind Green Day's Dookie and Blink 182's shoot, I can't remember which Blink 182 album, but it's ranked like right behind that. So like it's very much like it really started to sort of like propel them up in an upwards direction. And I'll be so for real right now. If I were to rank the Fall Out Boy albums, not including like the EPs and not including Evening Out with Your Girlfriend, because that's like technically like not a full album, I think Take This to Your Grave would go last for me. I don't think it's a bad album. It's just like it's not my favorite.
Hmm. That's fair.
It's very early Fallout Boy. I think it very much set the blueprint for what Fallout Boy was going to be. I
I don't
just
remember. I
tend
think we
to sort
talked
of
about this before.
skew.
Don't we have the same favorite album?
We
Isn't it?
do. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Save Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get into why that's my favorite later, but yeah. So like and listen, and it's okay. I'm gonna tell everybody right now, it's okay to have a favorite band and to not like every single thing that they do, or like not be
Hmm.
obsessed with every single album or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't make you any less of a fan. I can't stand the fans that are like
Yeah,
every single song this band makes is perfection, and it's like no it's not, or
there's
maybe
some
not, like
fans
that's not
that'll
the right
listen
word.
to like any Eminem fan who says they like the one album where he did all the accents. I'm like, do you though? Do you
Yeah,
really?
yeah, it's
Because
also like,
even he knows he did bad on that album.
yeah, it's also like personal preference.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that every single Fall Out Boy song is my favorite, because like it's not, but it's my personal preference. Doesn't mean I think it's a bad song, it just means it's
Hmm.
not my favorite.
Yeah.
And so they toured with that, and then their second album came out, and From Under the Cork Tree, and that one is really where it started like kicking off, because that's the one with Sugar We're Going Down, and that's one with Dance Dance, and that album actually got them their very first ever Grammy nomination
Hmm.
for Best New Artist, and that just really started to just really like propel them up. And they have a song on there called Sophomore Slump or Comeback of the Year, because like there's sort of this
Hmm.
like running thing with musicians and bands of like, oh, if you have like this the album that comes after your debut album, like your second album, your sophomore album, it really can be like a determining factor for like
Yeah.
how well you do in the industry. And I've always loved how much Fall Out Boy like will kind of try to go against the industry, and like will do things that aren't necessarily what you should do to like, because the music industry is a very like weird and like fickle thing, and like obviously I don't know everything about it because I am not in the music industry,
Hmm.
but I do love when bands like very openly talk about how hard the music industry is and how like weird it can be, and trying to follow all these like rules and stuff to try to like make it quote unquote like make it big. And Fall Out Boy's like hasn't ever really fully like played into that. Which I think is why they have stuck around for as long as they have and have continued to maintain like their fame and their place in the music industry and like their fan base. Um, I really is a testament to like that they don't really like follow the standards that you're necessarily like supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And From Under the Cork Tree, great album. Really every Fall Brown, great album. And that leads into Infinity on High, which that one I think is like really the kind of one that like really like skyrocketed them. They have like Jay-Z feature on the album. In the Thanks for the Memories music
Mm-hmm.
video, Kim Kardashian is in it. Um, like that's really like what sort of like really kicked them off into fame. And like speaking of fame, um uh, Patrick, the reason like Pete Wentz is kind of like the frontman of the band is because like Patrick didn't want to be, even though he was the lead singer. In fact, Patrick, the reason he wore those like trucker hats for so long is because it blocked out the audience from him and he was like scared. He like didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
see the audience. And so he didn't want to be the front man. And so that was also something super different. I think before that we hadn't really seen a lot of bands like have the front man not be the lead singer. And
Mm-hmm.
like on top of that, not only was the front man or not only was the lead singer not the front man, the lead singer was not the main lyricist,
Mm-hmm.
which is like usually how it goes for bands. But like Pete Wentz was the main lyricist. It's a little different now. Pete still writes a majority of the lyrics, but like yet he was the main lyricist and the front man while being the bassist. And I think that was like sort of like the first time we'd like really like seen that before, like in a band. And it was like, oh, this is so different. And also Pete Wentz is just like very charming and like very good at like talking to crowds and like talking to people and like is genuinely like a person that that you want to have a conversation with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always like it's just so interesting to me. And like the fact that like Patrick was just so like up until this past uh not the most recent tour they had, um, but the one they had for their most recent album. It was the So Much for Tour Dust
Mm-hmm.
tour. That was the first time in a very long time that Patrick would actually talk on stage. And he talked
Yeah, he
a
did. Because I
lot
think that
on
was the tour I
stage.
was at too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Yeah, it was like it was very shocking and surprising to me as a fan because it's like I know that you don't really talk on stage. This is wow. And I love it and I hope that he continues to do it because it's
Mm-hmm.
great. Um so yeah, so then we get Infinity on High and that sort of starts to like propel them up. And it's also like crazy to me too cuz like right before From Under the Cork Tree released, trigger warning for people, Pete Wentz had a suicide attempt. And he like it was in like a Best Buy parking lot, and he tried to for like his anxiety medication is what he took, which is why I think one of the songs on From Under the Cork Tree is 7 Minutes in Heaven, in parentheses Ativan Halen, because he was on Ativan and that's the medication. And thankfully like he called his mom up and it was all good. And it's just like Fall Out Boy's never shied away from talking about things like that. And he, I believe, like talks relatively openly about it. And I know he talks openly about his struggles um with addiction a little bit, or like the fact that he sort of used to like self-medicate, and he talks very openly about his depression and anxiety and his bipolar disorder that he has, and that's always been like very representative in Fall Out Boy's like music and lyrics, which is probably why I think like so many people like sort of like flock to them and
Hmm.
like hold on to them because it's like you talk about stuff and you know exactly what you're talking about, and you make me feel less alone. That's like
Yeah.
one of the main reasons why I vibe with Fall Out Boy so hard. And so yeah, Infinity on High happens. It does great. Like really, my favorite thing about Infinity on High is the reason why Thanks for the Memories is Thanks for Merms is because their label was like, "Hey, your song titles are too long." Because
Hmm.
Fall Out Boy used to be, they don't do it as much anymore. They used to be known for their long song titles. I'm Like a Lawyer with All the Ways I'm Trying to Get You Off. Um, our lawyer made us change the name of the song so we wouldn't get sued.
I
Um,
love
I've
long song titles though. Like it's so funny and I really like
yeah.
it. Like the One Water Parts song is my favorite song and it's like a really long title. Let me make sure I get it
Oh, is it
completely
I
right.
miss having sex, but at least I don't want to die
Yes,
anymore?
that's my favorite Water Parts song. It's like
Oh,
in
and
my
that one
top
also,
three. It's so
yeah, and
great.
that one references Pete and Patrick. So I wouldn't be surprised if the actual song title itself,
Is a
because the first
reference.
lyrics of
Yeah.
the song are "You had your own Pete Wentz and Patrick combined."
Yeah,
So I
and
wouldn't
it's
be
their
surprised
longest
if,
song title. Yeah, it made
yeah,
sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if that song title is directly in relation to Fall Out Boy long
Hmm.
song titles. But yeah, I've got a dark alley and a bad idea that you says you should shut your mouth.
Hmm.
Like they were very much known for having these like very long song titles. Fun fact, our lawyer has changed the name of the song so we wouldn't get sued. It was supposed to be called My Name is David Ruffian and These Are the Temptations. But when you reference somebody in a song title, you have to get explicit permission from that person to be
Hmm.
able to do that. Otherwise, it's like copyright infringement. Whereas if you mention somebody in song lyrics, you don't have to get their permission.
Yeah,
So the reason why Fall Out Boy's song Uma Thurman is named Uma Thurman is because they got permission from her to call the song that. But so that's why that song is our lawyer made us change the name of the song so we wouldn't get sued.
I love that.
That's why. And so yeah, the reason why, so their label, which was Island Records, for a very long time, was like, hey, you gotta, your song titles are too long. And
Hmm.
so they went, okay, and they took out all of the vowels for Thanks for the Memories and went, is that better? Because Fall Out Boy are nothing but petty bitches,
I
and
love
I'm
that for them.
here for it, truly. Um, and I love it. It really, if anything, I think Pete Wentz is a petty bitch. Maybe, honestly, maybe all of them, except maybe Andy. I don't think Andy is petty, but I think the
Hmm.
rest of them are petty, and I'm here for it, honestly. Good for them. And and then this is where we get into like my favorite part about Fall Out Boy lore, but also like I think one of the saddest parts of like Fall Out Boy history and lore is we get into their fourth album,
Hmm.
which is Folie à which is a French psychiatric term that means the shared madness of two. And it basically means when two people would share the same like delusion and psychosis. Um, and they really like did a different direction. They already had cuz like Infinity on High had more like R&B kind of
Hmm.
focused on it, but Folie à was like they had a full orchestra. Like it's a bit different from like what we had listened to previously with their albums. They took it in a bit of a different direction. And like Patrick, that was like his baby. Like he poured his blood, sweat and tears into that. They were kind of like at a point in their careers where they were like, we don't know how long this band is going to go for. We don't know when we're going to get the money to be able to hire a full orchestra again. So let's do that. And they
Hmm.
like really like took a chance with this, and it was not a well received album. And which like breaks my heart because Folia de is my second favorite Fall Out Boy album. Like, it's a very close second to Save Rock and Roll. I
Mm.
love it. I think it's amazing. I think the lyrics on Folia de are some of the
Isn't
best.
that's the album your
Mhm.
tattoo idea is coming from, right?
That is, I do. I have a Folia de song tattooed on me. Um, I think it has some of the best lyrics of Fall Out Boy in general. I
Mm-hmm.
like how different it is. It's like it's a very, like, weird album, and I will die on the hill that somebody needs to make a jukebox musical with Fall Out Boy's Folia de.
That'd be
Truly.
interesting. I literally
I
I've had the Spotify up this whole time just so I don't remember as much about
Yeah.
Fall Out Boy off the
Yeah,
top of
yeah.
my head as you.
I want it
But
so
yeah.
bad. I think Folia de could yield such a cool Broadway musical. Like, I think it could be very, like, Alice in Wonderland kind of style acid trip, because that's sort of like, if you watch the music videos for the album, specifically the America's Sweethearts music video,
Mm-hmm.
it's like very like it gives me like very Alice in Wonderland on an acid trip vibes, very like Yellow Submarine,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like weird, like whimsical kind of vibes. And I think that using that for a Broadway musical and telling this like crazy, like very like whimsical, brightly colored, interesting story would be so cool. And I think so different from what
Mm-hmm.
we see on Broadway now.
Yeah.
Somebody please do. I'm begging you and let me be in it, please.
I'm
I
really
can
surprised it's
sing.
not. I'm really surprised it doesn't really received. I'm looking at the album right now and like,
Yeah,
I Don't Care is so good. American
I don't care
Sweethearts is one of
so
my
good.
favorites. Coffee for
Yeah.
Clothes is one of my favorites.
I
What a Catch Donnie
that
is really
album
great.
that album
Disloyal Order of Water Buffaloes is great. Like,
so that's my favorite Fall Out Boy song ever.
mm-hmm.
That album has my favorite. I wanna get Nobody Wants to Hear You Sing About Tragedy tattooed on me, and I would love it to be in Fall Out Boy's handwriting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so bad. Like, all because it's 8 words and there's 4 members,
Do
which means
two
they can
each.
each write 2
Yeah,
words.
that'd be dope.
And it'd be amazing. No, so that album, very special place in my heart. It did not do well critically. There was also like that album did also cause a lot of tension with the band because like up until that point, the deal had been like not really like the deal, but the way that things had been is like Pete writes the lyrics, Patrick composes the music, and like that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That album, like, and like Joe Troman came out with a memoir titled None of This Rocks, which I highly recommend. It's a great read. I learned a lot. Um, and he talks about how like he had had issues of like feeling like he wasn't like a full member of the band and like how he wanted to like write more, but he also like credits like, I was very passive aggressive about it. I probably should have been more communicative about it. So, and at this point they had been touring pretty much nonstop for almost 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it was just sort of this like boiling point kind of happening. And so there was like tension like writing the album. And I do think that Joe did get to write a little bit more on this album. And so there's a lot of tension. And then the album is not critically well received, which is crazy because like 2 months after the album, it was certified gold. Like, but in comparison to the rest of it, like, it didn't, and, like, critics didn't like it, fans didn't like it, and it got to a point where, fans would, like, go to their tour, and anytime they played a song off the album, they would, like, boo it, and they, like, didn't wanna hear the songs live, and, like, that for Patrick was, like, really difficult because like,
Mm-hmm.
he really poured, like, everything into this album, and to have it, like, be so, like, not well received, like, really took a toll, and just that mixed with the tension between all of them that was just growing, they were like, "We have to take a break," and they've actually said, they were like, "If we didn't take our break, we would have broken up."
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was getting to that point, so that's when as we all know, the 3.5-year hiatus or break that they took, they will be the first ones to correct you and say it was not a breakup. We did not break up. we were on a break, we were on a hiatus. Like, they were like, it was never like, "Oh, Fall Out Boy," but, like, at the time, people were like, "Oh my god, Fall Out Boy's done. I don't know if they're coming back."
Mhm.
And so during this hiatus is where we get everybody like doing their own little like side projects. And so we have Pete starts this band called the Black Cards and sort of this more like electro band. He also like opens up a bar, and he wrote a book called Gray, which I actually surprisingly haven't read. I've heard it's very good though. A lot of people really like it. Joe and Andy form a metal band with a couple members, one from Every Time I Die, and then a couple members from another band that I can't remember off the top of my head. And they
Mhm.
form like a metal band called The Damned Things. Cause like Joe and Andy have always been like big metal fans.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I've tried to listen to them. I'm not a huge metal
Yeah, I
person.
can't
It's
do
like
metal.
yeah, it's, like, not totally my vibe. I think I've tried to listen to them, and it's not, like, completely my vibe,
Mhm.
which is totally fine. Nothing against any of them. And then we get to my favorite side project, which was Patrick Stump did a solo album, and it's called Soul Punk. And I will die on the hill that I think Soul Punk is one of the best albums ever. I think it is criminally underrated. I think it's incredible. It invented a new genre, which is soul punk. Like
Mhm.
that is 100% what it is. And it's this amazing album. He wrote every single song. He played every single instrument on it. He produced it himself. And then he toured with it and he spent his own money like hiring like a full backing band and like self-funded this tour for it. And, this was also the time where like he lost a bunch of weight because his doctor was like worried for him, so he
Mhm.
lost a bunch of weight for like health reasons. He cut his hair, he got rid of the sideburns because that was a big Patrick Stump thing, like the sideburns. Also at Fall Out Boy's like last concert before they took their hiatus, Mark Hoppus from Blink 182 came on stage and like shaved Pete Wentz's hair off, which Pete
Damn.
Wentz was like very well known for his hair, like the emo fringe and also like the guy liner.
Mhm.
And so it was very much this signifying thing of like this sort of era coming to an end and maybe something new happening. But so Patrick loses all this weight. He like bleach blonde dyes his hair and he starts like dressing the way that he likes to dress a little bit more. He starts wearing all these like colored suits.
Mhm.
And I mean like bright colors, like a bright blue, a bright red, like stuff like that. He's wearing like fingerless gloves. He's got like cool little bow ties. Um, he looks incredible. I love soul punk era Patrick Stump,
Mhm.
truly. And he's like touring with this album and it's not doing well. And it's getting to the point where people are going to his solo shows to tell him, we liked you better when you were fat, or like, you're nothing without Fall Out Boy. And it's awful. Like, I cannot even imagine
Mhm.
what that was like coming off of Folia Duh from like that situation and then like pouring everything into this solo album and then having that met with the same if not harsher reaction. Horrible.
Yeah.
And so then that leads into this I believe it was a live journal post that Patrick makes, or it might have been something that he wrote for
My God, live journal.
yeah. Oh, Pete was like big on live journal. Like I think you can still go on to live journal. Like I think it exists
Mhm.
forever. And like Pete was very much into live journal. That
Baby
was like a
baby queer page totally wasn't on live journal.
it was a little past my era, so it was never
I
my
know, I
thing. I was
dated myself
a
a little bit,
Tumblr
it's
girly.
fine.
Yeah, I was a Tumblr girly for sure. Um and so Patrick writes this whole thing and it's basically like how he thinks he's like a failure at 27, which hurts me so hard as somebody who's 27 and is trying
Mhm.
to like not feel like a failure to hear like somebody who's that incredibly talented and has been that successful to be like I'm a failure at 27. and he talked about how he didn't even think he was gonna play music ever again. Like, he's like, "Maybe I'll be a music critic now. I don't really see myself playing music ever again." And he talked about, like, how hard the reaction of Folia Doe was, and he talked about the things that people would come up to him and say at his, soul punk shows, and they actually weren't able to do the last shows on that tour because they basically, like, ran out of money, and I believe Patrick Stump went a little bankrupt over that,
Hmm.
um, because it just didn't do well, and a lot of people thought that this was a suicide note, and because of that, that actually prompted Pete to call him and be like, "Dude, I think we gotta get the band back together." Like, "You need Fall Out Boy." And, like, they all talk about how the hiatus, like, it was hard for them, like, they talk about, like, going home and, like, looking at their empty calendar, and Pete talks about, he's like, "I no longer was this, like, front man of this band, I was just, like, this guy that hangs around," and, like, Andy talks about, like, going home and just this empty calendar, and so, they, like, agreed to come back, and then out of, like, nowhere, because 'cause they're, like, meeting in secret, and they're,
Hmm.
like, being really careful to, like, not have this leak or have anybody know. Out of nowhere, they announce they're coming back, they drop a new song, a new music video, announce a new album, and a tour for that album.
I don't
Like,
remember. Was
pretty
it
much
was it Irresistible or Centuries that came out first? I feel like it was one of their more major ones from that
it
album,
was
but
Save Rock and Roll,
was it Save
and
Rock and Roll?
it was My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark.
Mm.
Was what they dropped. And it's so funny because T-Pain is in that video. He's the one burning up all the Fall Out Boy,
Oh,
like,
I
memorabilia,
always get
and then we
Save
get to
Rock
the
and
end of
Roll
the
and American
video.
Beauty confused. That's why.
Yeah, 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 that's the next one.
Yep.
Yeah. And, like, at the end of the video, it's Fall Out Boy in the van, and their hoods all come off, and we can see that it's, like, them.
Hmm.
And it's so funny because a photo of it was either just Pete or, like, all of the members of Fall Out Boy, like, with T-Pain, and somebody was like, "Oh my god, I think Fall Out Boy's coming back," and everybody was like, "No, that's faked. That's not real. There's no way." Because there had been
Hmm.
these, like, little rumors and things, and people, like, I feel like every so often be like, "Oh, I think Fall Out Boy's coming back based on this," but those were all fake. The one time it was real, and everybody was like, "No, that's fake. There's no way that's real.
Hmm.
Absolutely not. Why would that ever be real?" Which is so, so funny to me, and I love it so much. And, so yeah, Save Rock and Roll happens, and it's my favorite Fall Out Boy album. I love it so much. I think every song individually is so incredible,
Hmm.
and all of them together are just make this, like, beautiful masterpiece of an album. And it really was like save rock, like, they really came in here being like, "We're trying to save rock and roll," and it really, like, sort of, really kinda cemented, them as this, like, very powerful, rock band. And, they also released an EP, like, off of that called Paxam Days, which
Hmm.
is very much their love letter to kind of the punk scene, and it's very, like, guitar heavy, and I think they, like, recorded all of it in, like, 2 days. Um, and, um and yeah, they just, like, they came back in, like, full force. And then they did this tour, and they had 21 Pilots and Panic at the Disco open for them on the Save Rock and Roll tour,
That's insane.
and it's insane, insane. Like, could you imagine that happening now? I mean, no, because Panic at the Disco doesn't exist anymore because Brendan Urie's the worst.
Hmm.
And I think at this point, 21 Pilots is, like, technically bigger than them. Um,
Yeah, I would say so now. Yeah.
yeah, and it was like, just like, "Oh, they're back," and things just felt right, and then, like,
Oh yeah, did I
American
tell you
Beauty.
Fall Out Boy's supposed to be here like next month? I'm debating going to it. It's like some like
You
a
should
mini. It's some
absolutely
like
go.
mini little like music fest that's supposed to be here, and I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, probably. I was like, "They're not touring right
It's
now.
like
Their tour is
I don't even
over."
know what it's called. I keep seeing things for it around town when I'm driving through Chicago, but I need to drive. I'm debating going to it just for that
Oh
one
my god,
day.
that's right, you're in Chi you have to see you
Yeah, I'm in Chicago. That's why I was like, when you said
that's
they're
their
from.
hometown,
Yeah.
and, like, apparently, Fall Out Boy Chicago shows like go hard. Like very different
So
experience
I
because
can
it's their
go and
hometown.
make you insanely jealous then.
You can, but I also think you should go because I think I'd have a great time.
I'm
I would
I
enjoy
gotta
it.
look it up. So I don't think it'll be too much because it's not a. I've never heard of this music fest, so it's sort of more of a homegrown one. So I'm gonna look into
Yeah,
it.
that's fair. Um, yeah, and then like they also for Save Rock and Roll, they did the Monument tour where they toured with Paramore. It's like insane, insane. And then American Beauty, American Psycho comes out, and like that's also a great album. Um, and then they did like a shoe off of it where it's a bunch of like hip hop remixes called Make America Psycho Again. Um, and and then we get to oh no, what was it? Oh, right. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So sorry.
No, you're good.
And then we get to Mania, and Mania was like a very different album for them. And a lot of people are not fans. I really like Mania. I was really excited that they were like doing something different. I think it was really cool. I remember when they released Young and Menace, and I remember listening to it and I was like, this is so cool. Like it it sounds so different from any other Fall Out Boy song I've listened to, but it still sounds like Fall Out Boy. My favorite thing about Fall Out Boy is that they have done this really cool thing where they have like evolved and changed a little bit with the music industry, because like I hate the fans that are like that like only like old Fall Out Boy, and it's like they're such sellouts now, they're so different and all this stuff, and it's like, do you not understand that like to continue on an upward trajectory in the
Hmm.
music industry, you have to evolve and change and grow, because the music industry is constantly evolving and changing and growing. You can't just make the same album over and over and over again, because the bands that
Fair.
do that don't last or don't continue to just go up and up and up. And Fall Out Boy's always been very good about that. They
Hmm.
have not done the same album twice. And they've like grown and evolved and changed and like tried new things. However, they still have kept their like core of like what makes them Fall Out Boy. They still have kept like Pete's like incredible poetic lyrics that like take cliches and like flip them on their heads. They've kept Patrick's like soul voice, incredible vocals. They've like kept these like crazy incredible guitar notes and solos. They've
Hmm.
kept this super strong like incredible like drum beat of Andy. Like they've kept all of these like core things that make Fall Out Boy who they are, while still growing and changing and evolving and trying new things. And I love them, and I think that's why after 20 plus years,
Hmm.
let me think, 2024, 23 years this year, that they've been a band, it's why they're still as big as they are and why they still continue to have like so much success
That makes
and such a
sense.
big fan
I
base.
think that is probably a good place to leave it because I feel like if I just keep letting you talk, this could probably be like a 3 hour podcast. We're already a little over time, so
How about, can we end with my history with Fall Out Boy?
yes, go ahead and give me the quick like 5 minute spiel of your history of Fall Out Boy.
Sure. Because I'm sure everybody here listening here is like, oh my God, she's probably loved them forever. Like, the funny thing is, I did not get into Fall Out Boy until my senior year of high school, 2015. And that was the year my high school best friend, shout out to Gina, introduced me to like Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and 21 Pilots.
So it's all
And like
Gina's
all,
fault. Good to know.
yes, it's my fault. And like all of these kind of like pop punk, My Chemical Romance, all these pop punk like
Yeah.
alternative bands. Like I hadn't really known about them beforehand, and I just got like so into them. And Fall Out Boy was one of the main ones that I like immediately like gravitated toward. Like my Tumblr is called What a Catch Joe, which like What a Catch is a Fall Out Boy song,
Hmm.
and then obviously Joe Troman. And like I haven't been a fan for as long as people expect me to be. I just have such like a love for them, and the first time I ever saw them was because I won a sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm.
I won the Honda Civic Tour sweepstakes back in, oh god, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and, I got to, like, pick between going to see, like, the main Honda Civic Tour, which I think was, like, Demi Lovato and, like, another person. Mhm. Or going to see, like, or either choosing between going to see Panic at the Disco, American Authors, or Fall Out Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already set to see Panic that summer, and I was like, "I'm not really big into Demi Lovato." I am a little bit more into her now. I still
My
think I made the
heart.
correct choice
My
for me.
heart.
I know you're so
Been
upset with
obsessed
me.
with Demi since Disney because she's the same
I
age as me,
know.
so I followed her whole career.
Oh, I know, I am aware. And, and so I was like, "I wanna see Fall Out Boy," and so they were trying to work out the details with me,
Mm-hmm.
and it, like, wasn't working with, like, my summer schedule and, like, this vacation I had planned, and they were trying to, like, flights and hotel, like, it was gonna be a full thing, and, like, it was like flight, hotel, um, and, like, front row tickets or
Mm-hmm.
whatever was, like, included in that. And then they gave me the other option, they're like, "Or we can give you this amount of money that, like, all of this is worth."
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing that, and with that money, I bought 2 front row tickets for me and my high school best friend, and booked a hotel, and we, like, drove down. It was in Paso Robles, California, so we drove the 2.5 hours down because 'cause I'm from the Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
and, we, like, stayed at a hotel, and the next day we went to the California Mid-State Fair because that's where they were playing, and we saw them front row, and I remember they came out, and the first thing that came to my mind was, "Wow, they are really short in person," because fun fact about Fall Out Boy is that you look at them all of them together, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, they're, like, all average height because 'cause they're all, like, in similar heights." Then you look at them next to, like, someone who's, like, 6 feet, and you're like, "Oh my god, they're so short." Patrick is 5'4". Pete Wentz is 5'6". Andy is 5'5". Joe is the tallest at 5'10", which is, like, average height
Joe's
for
the
a
only
guy.
one taller than me.
Yeah, Joe's the only one taller than you. Um, and then I, for a very long time, thought that I was 5'6", and I was like, "Cool, I'm the same height as Pete Wentz." And then I got measured at the doctor, and it turns out I'm actually 5'5.5". And so I'm shorter than Pete Wentz, and it makes me a little bit sad. Um, and that is B's favorite thing to, like, rub in my face about my
Mm-hmm.
height is that I am shorter than Pete Wentz. B also
You
likes to rub in the
should,
fact that I say I'm five five
yeah,
and a
you
half.
should round up or down. Like, no one
You
actually
know
says
what?
they're a half.
Patrick Stump is technically 5'4.5", but he says he's 5'4". So
Well, there you go.
So, you know. So yeah, I saw them for the first time ever front row, and, like,
Mm-hmm.
Pete Wentz and I made eye contact, like, 4 times, and I was like, I could die right here." And since then, I'm gonna be seeing them at the When We Were Young Fest in October, and I think that's gonna be my 7th time seeing them.
God damn.
They always put on an incredible show. They're fantastic live. And, like, I did a project for my intro to acting class in college where we had to come into class and pretend to, like, be somebody else, and, like, you got to dress like them, and then people had to, like, try to and, like, interview you and guess who you were, and you had to be in character the whole time. I did Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy,
Of course you
and, like,
did.
I have pictures still of me dressed up as him.
I love that.
Like, and then I got my first tattoo, and it's a Fall Out Boy tattoo, and it's a wooden ship's wheel with a banner that says, "I've got troubled thoughts and the self-esteem to match," which are lyrics from What a Catch, Donnie. Um, and most recently, because I am an actor, but I also work as a nanny, and I found out months ago, and I have not known a day of peace since, that one of the families I work for, occasionally bought their house from Patrick Stump. And they were like, because I was talking to this mom, um, about what a fan I am of this band, and then that's when she told me, and she was like, "Morgan, you've been in his house and I have not known a day of peace since. And it's so funny because this family, I can't wear Fallout Boy merch when I like go to their house to watch their kids. Because they just kind of laugh and they're like, it's just so funny. And I've been like, I promise you I'm not a crazy fan. And they're like, we know you're not. We know. They just think it's really funny that I'm such a big fan of this band
Hmm.
whose house they like live in. Truly LA is such a small world, honestly. But I just I love Fall Out Boy a lot.
TLDR, Morgan loves Fall Out Boy merch.
TLDR, I'm a really big Fall Out Boy fan, and it's one of those things of, and this will be sort of my ending thing, is I am not always very good at expressing how I'm feeling, but also like talking about how I'm feeling and then putting like a name to certain emotions. Like that's
Hmm.
not I'm getting better at it, but it's still like a struggle for me. And I have a poster in my room, and I'm so sad I'm not in my room right now. So I could show you guys the crazy music wall I have that's like full of Fall Out Boy
I'm
posters.
debating for a hard minute change in my background, but
I have two signed things by Fall Out Boy. One is a first edition copy, and one is fully hand signed by them.
hmm
I have a little poster on my wall in my room that says when words fail, music speaks. And like that's very much like why I gravitate so much towards music, cuz like music makes me feel less alone when I hear bands like
hmm
Fall Out Boy, like 21 Pilots, like Water Parks, like AJR talk about these things that I struggle with, that I'm dealing with, that I go through. That's why I have the specific lyrics that I
hmm
have tattooed on me, because What a Catch Donnie was written for Patrick by Pete, and Pete wrote it from Patrick's perspective because he never understood how a guy so talented and so amazing and so kind
hmm
could think so bad about himself. And that's why the lyrics are I've got troubled thoughts and the self-esteem to match. And if lead singer of one of the best and most popular rock bands of our generation, so incredibly talented. Like he also scores like movies and TV shows. He
hmm
writes music for children's shows on Disney now. He voice acts as well. Like this really incredibly talented person could like think so harshly and so badly about himself. It's okay that I do too. And like the way that they write about things, like it's just different from a lot of other, I think, musicians out there. And I think that's why I gravitate towards them so much, because it's like you get it, you understand, and you are speaking like your truth and really honestly and openly here. And you're making me feel less alone and less bad for experiencing and feeling these things. And that's really important to me.
This has been great. I knew a lot of this, but I didn't know as much of the detail that we went into tonight. So it was nice to hear some of it. I knew all the personal connotations behind a lot of this because
Yeah.
we might have talked about this stuff once or twice before.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I did forget to put Mania is where they got their second Grammy nomination for Best Rock Album. And then the album after that, that's their most recent one, So Much for Stardust. I will die on the hill that they should have been Grammy nominated for that. And I am incredibly upset that they weren't, because that
yeah,
album is
I feel
incredible.
like the Grammys aren't a joke anymore, but that's all another conversation.
All award shows are really, honestly.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining me here tonight with this. This was great. I mean, I always love talking to you anyway.
Oh,
But
shucks. Thanks.
why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and like what you're working on and
Yeah,
stuff? This airs like
absolutely.
mid-September, but I'm pretty sure you'll still be on new roles at that point.
Yes.
So
Yeah, 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 of course. Yeah, you can find me on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. It's all at Attack on Morgan. That's all of my social media. You can find me every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as a part of the New Rawlist campaign over on the Dyson Autism Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Dyson Autism. You can also find almost all of the videos for our New Rawlist campaign, as well as all of the videos for Hero U, a mass mini campaign that we did on the YouTube Dyson Autism. Currently, right now, um, which is currently, middle of August, we
mhm.
are doing a prequel series called Founding Steps, which is a prequel to our main campaign set 200 years in the past and is sort of the catalyst for the current events going on in the main campaign. It's like very Calamity style. Probably at this point when this comes out, it might be over and we might be back to the main campaign, but still check it out. You can also find me on the Pick Your Poison Productions YouTube channel. I do the roguelike rumbles over there, which are live, interactive, immersive D&D events. Not to toot my own horn, but I am a roguelike rumble champion.
Hell yeah. Finally.
Finally, fourth time's the charm. And so you can catch, I've done it 4 times, so you can catch me over there. I also do Rumble Ventures, which are little one shot set in the world of Las Asimas, where the rumbles take place of what do these fighters do when they're not trying to kill each other to become the champion. And
Hmm.
I also do Dreadful over there, which is a horror-based TTRPG stream where it's same characters, different universes, and we play a different horror-themed TTRPG every time we play. We just did a panel at Midsummer Scream, and we actually did like different characters. And we used the system Dread, which involves a wooden block tower, and we got the audience to pull the
Love
wooden
Dread.
blocks.
Just played Dread recently with Chris. It was great. I was the only one out
It's
of
super
four
fun.
different games that were connected that survived.
Yeah, it's great. So that's all on the Pick Your Poison Productions YouTube channel. Definitely check it out.
Mhm.
You can also like previously I was a part of Girl Squad on World Tree Quests, so you can find all those videos on YouTube as well. You can find me on the Pluto Cleric YouTube channel. I did a Thirsty Sword Lesbians one shot, as well as a Daggerheart one shot.
Mhm.
Um, you can find me on the Spells and Whistles podcast. We did a 3 episode mini arc playing Perils and Princesses. Super fun, great system. Their next book, Sweet Revenge, I believe has been fully funded on Kickstarter and will be coming out soon. I'm very excited. I backed the Kickstarter. It's a great game, great system. Um, I think that's everything. I have a couple things in the works that I cannot announce, so just
Mhm.
keep an eye out on my socials for things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and like thank you so much for letting me come and just info and lore dump about this subject that I know too much about,
Oh,
truly. I
I'm glad
also
I
did do research today
had.
for it. I wanted to make sure I was getting things correct because I didn't want to come in here and be like, oh yeah, me, like #1 Fallout Boy fan, and then
Mhm.
get stuff wrong. I
No,
still might
that's
have gotten
totally
stuff
fair.
wrong. It's like, bear with me. But thank you for like having a space for people to do this, and thank you for having me on this. This
Yeah,
was a lot of
one of my
fun.
favorite things is to hear my friends talk about what they're passionate about and
It's one
just
of
sit
my
there.
favorite things
Yeah, so
too.
like, of course, I made this my whole theme of this podcast.
It's so fun.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you can follow Morgan everywhere. Their socials will be included in the descriptions.
Oh yeah,
Obviously,
thank
the
you.
podcast is everywhere on YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, and we'll live stream on Twitch once I figure out how to do that with VODs. But we got time before any of these go live.
You
Um,
got this.
but yeah, this has been another episode of On the Same Page, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.